Let's see if that actually, it says it's live. We'll pretend it's live and hope it's live. Because, boy, the more I try, the more I find out I know nothing about this system or how to make it work. But I did find that it has a feature that says you can try it out. And now I have a blank screen, so I have no idea if it was on there or not. Anyway, I'll have to try more on how to make it work when you're not actually trying to live stream. Some of the testing backstage things and figure out how that works. All right. And okay, so we're starting that batch of Bosc that we were talking about last week. And I've had it in the freezer except for the last bit of Bosc, one tray, which I prepped yesterday. So it's been in the freezer since yesterday, and now we're going to get it into the machine and transfer the other Bosc that we put on cookie sheets onto the trays and put them in there. My machine has been pre-cooling for about an hour. The thermometer along the side says that it's -30, and the machine display says that it's 4 degrees. But again, the display temperature is taken from a thermistor in the back of the second tray up, and it's not as cold there yet. So let's get the pears out of the freezer and onto the trays and get them in there. Okay, let's see. And I don't know how to do any of this other stuff. I see comments, and I remember you could put them on the screen, and I don't remember how. Okay, so I'm going to move one of the cameras. Let's see, how do I do that? And we'll go over and get the stuff set up for putting them on the trays. Yeah. Okay, come on, cameras. All right. Well, it has the table on there, but I don't know how to make it look right on this camera. So we'll get the other camera over there also. Okay. Boy, I know so little about this thing. So if I press that button, maybe? Ah, there it is. Okay. So tilt that down so we can see all of the area. And these are frozen pears, so I am going to put the gloves on so I don't freeze my hands. And some of the pears will be a little bit sticky because of the sugars and things on them. So we'll get those over here in just a second. Okay. All right. We've got the trays. They were pre-freezing in the freeze dryer in the freezer, getting them nice and cold. And all of the pears, of course, were in there freezing. Wow, that seems like some strange delays, because suddenly on that camera it just appeared. So I have no idea how it's working on the real life pieces. I'll have to experiment more. Okay, so these are the last of the pears that I had earlier, and I think most of this tray is actually camise pears. And then these were the Bosc pears, and there's 4 slices of camise pears on there also. Okay. So I forgot that there was a mix of them. And the camise were the ones that were sliced very thickly. Okay. And then I'd sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on the camise. And we'll try to get those arranged as well as we can. I don't want to have any of these 2 layers thick because I did cut them so thick. They're already going to take a long time to freeze dry just because they're very, very thick. Okay, and then we'll weigh them after we get them all loaded. And because I have these thick ones, I'm not going to end up with thermometers in these thick ones again, because I didn't want to drill these today. Yeah, I'd forgotten that I'd had the whole tray of camise still and 4 extra slices. I thought all I had left was Bosc. All right, so that's the last of the camise, hopefully for this year. And then we've got a full tray of the Bosc still. And these were a little bit thinner slices. And so these will end up being double stacked on some of these because I'm not going to worry about single stacking all of these, because these at least are a little thinner. And of course, this thicker amounts, it will take longer to freeze dry, and we'll just have to let it go longer. Yeah, and you can see I didn't bother separating them or making them nice and neat when I did these. I just poured them on the trays because I was getting tired of doing them and I just wanted to get them in the freezer real quick, which makes more trouble later when you go to use them. Wow, yeah, some of these are not going to fit in this batch. I'll just leave them in a Ziploc for a future part of a batch when I need something to fill up a tray or two. So I have no idea if the audio or video is actually working properly, because for me, I'm hearing an echo about 4 or 5 seconds later. And I didn't have that problem last time I did this, so it must be the fact that I tried a different setup and don't know what I'm doing still. Okay, that's more than full. These will wait in a Ziploc for a later batch. I'll just go ahead and wait. Leave these in a bag for a tray that needs a little bit of stuff on it. All right. Now we'll get these trays weighed, and this is tray 4. And it weighs 1747 right now. And the tare weight on this one with the piece of paper is 749. And I'm going to see if I can put a thermometer in this particular one because it has the littler pieces of pear. So I can kind of tuck it in there somewhere, I think. But I do have a thermometer in the other tray of Bosc that I'd already prepared. So I do have thermometers in that one, so I don't need it in all of them. And tray 3's weight, let's go ahead and move this out of the way. 1468. $15.55. And the weighing of them at this point is absolutely not necessary or required anyway. We find it very useful for the information if we want to be able to rehydrate things later. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter. But people had asked so many times about how much did it weigh before, how much did it weigh after, that we started tracking and keeping that information. We used to just do the weight check, the dry check, and that was the only weight we did, except for a general idea of how much was on the tray so we could know the portions that we're bagging in. If we're portioning in 1 pound or 2 cups or whatever. But now we kind of track that and keep it also. Okay, now we'll get the other tray. Then this is the tray of Bosc that we'd chopped into cubes. And I have a video of that, and we will be putting out a whole video of that. And this has, oh, I need to take this thermometer out to get the accurate weight. 2007. All right. Now, these are ready to get in the freeze dryer. Let's go over there and get them in. So we want this camera now. Let's figure out how to do this piece here. Okay, now, in our basement area where we have the freeze dryer, the freezers are on the other side of the room, and we've got the freeze dryer over here, and we use this little cart for wheeling all the trays around, and then we have the bagging cart also. So we'll get these loaded in. So now it's been about an hour and a quarter, and it says that the rack temperature is -5, and the thermometer along the side says about -34 now. So it's dropping quite nicely. Okay, now get those in. And I'm going to put tray 1, I'm actually putting in the second spot because it's so heavy. These middle 2 tend to dry a little bit faster, so I'm putting the lighter 2 trays on the outside and the heavier 2 on the inside this time. Okay, now I want to make sure I have a ring all the way around this seal, and I don't right now at this time, and usually I have been. So I'm going to use my little frosting spatula and just pull that seal ever so slightly out till I have that ring around there, so I know I won't have any air leak or ice build up around that seal. All the way around there. Now I shouldn't have to worry about any of vacuum leaks or anything in there. Camera just stopped showing anything. Now it's back, but I don't know how to do that. And I don't know how to do this. Tap on them. Okay, I'm going to go through, back up a little bit. There's a question earlier about the premieres. Yeah, you can have a short video before the stream starts to let people know that it's a placeholder. How do I get to the next one? Oh, back up so I can read the shirt. Oops, it's over the top of that. Okay. Any science experiment, you need a control to make sure that the thing that you're working on is actually having the proper effect. So that's what that is. Oh, good, no echo there. It's an incredible echo in my ears. I mean, it's a full, I hear it almost immediately, and then I hear it again about 5 seconds later. Oh, I should have added that. Okay, so that's good to know. I'm going to have to experiment more without going live to see, because they have a thing to make it so that we can see it without broadcasting it out. So I need to experiment with that because it was terrible today. It took me an hour to get this set up and I still didn't make it on time. The extra large, you can do a lot of stuff with that. With our medium, we did the one series, the 500-pound series or the 50 batch series. 100 days, we did 500 pounds of pre-dried weight, and we calculated out that the machine pays for itself in less than 50 batches. All right. Yeah, do you have any idea what the wait time is right now? When my sister got hers, it was October of 2022, and I think they said that they had an 8-week, but they shipped in about 4 weeks, I think, for hers. Okay, I'm just going through the comments real fast, see if there's anything. Yeah, picture very blurry. And I don't know if that's the different cameras when I switch back and forth, or just because it's a crummy broadcast. What I'm trying out only lets me do 720, and so it's not a good quality. You know, so I'll have to try different ways and find out what the best way is. The one that I can do, the 1080p, have to pay money for that version, and I don't know if it's, honestly, if it's worth it for me. It might cost me more than it's worth by a lot. So I'll experiment with it and find out what happens. Meetings in November. Oh, thanks. Yeah. I'm bummed to hear it's blurry. And again, I don't know how much is blurry versus just crappy quality, because it'll only do 720 at best. But we were having a hard time setting this up, and I set it up in a different order, and the cameras were different ones as the one that's controlling it. I did it the wrong direction this time, so I've got to find out what's the proper way to do it, and then find out if the paid version is worth it for me. Yeah. Okay. And I mentioned also, well, I don't know if I can show that here. I have a short video of when I prepped those little cubes, and I might be able to show that on here. Let me check that. If I press this button, I don't see it, so not here. It might be up on the computer, but not on here. Huh. Well, that's a bummer. I was hoping to show that. It's the intro to this live stream. It had a few seconds of it that was looped. That was from prepping that tray one of those cubes. And so this is the first time I've done the cubes with the pears. And with the Bosc pears, they're more firm than camise pears, so they work pretty well. Apples work great on that, but I don't think camise would work very well because they tend to be a pretty soft pear when they're ripe. So I wasn't really sure which way, if these were going to work, but the Bosc worked out real well. And they were pretty ripe, but they were good. Thanks. Yeah. Well, it's yeah, I don't know how to use this stuff, and then I was kind of rushed in it. We were doing pizzas earlier today, so we did like for Christmas Eve we do a pizza bar, you know. So we roll out 8-9-inch pizza crusts, and then we have a whole line of different toppings. Well, it's really good for lunches too. So today we did 38 pizzas, starting at about 11 o'clock today, and took about 4 hours, including cleanup. And we did bake 38 little pizzas, which now most of them will be in the freezer. We can just pull one out for a snack, you know, the pre-baked, so we can either microwave them or oven them again. It's a great way to do pizza. I'll add some pictures of that sometime. In fact, I thought about live streaming the whole pizza thing with multiple cameras sitting over the different prep areas. It was really interesting because we had 3 different areas and we were just going through them really quick. So our oven can do 5 pizzas at a time. We have the steels in them, and about 11 minutes baking, and then let it reheat for about 5 minutes. So about 16, 18 minutes for each 5 pizza batch. Okay. Yeah, and the learning curve might, you know, I'm good at learning things, but this has so many variables that it's a lot to get in, and you don't want to just have just total junk in there, which is kind of what I end up with sometimes. But I wanted to try it this way because editing takes so long. This is a one and done thing, and I'm trying to find out if it's worth it. Can I answer questions more in real time? because typing out answers, I try to keep it, even though some of my answers are huge, I still try to keep it condensed. And you sometimes lose meaning in that, or you can have a misunderstanding on how it's, what the meaning is supposed to be. So I'd rather just talk about it, tell about it. And I find on real live stream things, I tend to talk more normal, a little bit faster. Whereas in my videos, it's like when I was teaching, you really think about the words more and slow down and try to make it so that it works for everybody. And sometimes that's really slow. Yay. Oh, hey. Can you explain how you made your stainless steel rods to make the hole for the thermometer? I do have a video on that, and so I could link that. When this video, YouTube will do a, I don't know, it does some work to it and then uploads it as another video, and it'll have the comments and anything. Anyway, I can link that video of the thermometer, the stainless steel rods. I can link that video at this spot in this video. But anyway, if you look for probably stainless steel rods, I don't know if that's the name of the video or not, but I think it could be there. And then you could see how I did that. And anyway, I did that because a viewer had asked about using the stainless steel thing instead of drilling. And just pull it out and replace it with a thermometer. Well, they have stainless steel rods that are virtually identical to the diameter of the thermometer. So it's a perfect match. It works out really well. Yeah, real happy with those. Okay, so anyway, I don't know if I need to continue, but if you have ideas for what you would like to see live and discuss, I thought maybe I could do it like when I was taking stuff out, then there's bagging and it's quieter because the machines aren't running, and we could discuss any of the subjects at that time too. And if I can make this work, I could move this camera around and show things. Like if you want to see how the storage is, or the data sheet for the storage and how those compare, we could show those in more or less real time. Yeah, so when this video is processed, that's the word I was looking for. After the video is processed, I can add to it a link during the time of this part of the video that says, here's that video on the stainless steel rods. And thermometers are not required to do the freeze drying, but I can't imagine doing it without it. We had a batch recently that I didn't have any thermometers in. It's like driving in the fog with your lights off. You know there's a road out there somewhere, but you have no idea if you're on it. And it's the same with this. You know that it's processing because the temperatures on the screen are changing, the vacuum's happening, everything's going, but you have no idea how far along the process is. And if you trust the machine to tell you that it's done, you're a fool. You might as well just flip a coin and guess, because it's like those 4 trays that I have in there now. You saw what I had in there. There's 2,000 grams total, so that's about 1,400 grams of food on the one tray, and somewhere around 900 or something on one of the other trays. We also have thicknesses, very thick pieces, and pears will be kind of like cotton candy, the camise pears. It will take a long time for the center area to sublimate the water out of. So the machine's firmware, the programming is saying the pressures are, I'm putting this amount of heat into the trays. That should cause the pressure to go up by this much because of sublimation. It's not, so I must be done. It has no idea how you loaded it or what you loaded. If you've loaded it with something that's light and fluffy and is now insulating it so the heat is having a hard time traveling through to the middle, it can't drive the pressure up properly. So it thinks it's done. You can't trust that it knows when it's done. If you loaded the same thing the same way every time, it would be easy to program it to know when it's done. But we're a bunch of miscellaneous people in the world that's loading a bunch of miscellaneous stuff in this machine, sometimes evenly, sometimes not. It has no way to account for that. Commercial machines, if you look at the videos from Mountain House Foods that has pictures, some videos showing their control panel, they have recipes for their machine. So they're telling it what they put in. And of course, they've done it over and over and over. So they know that they've loaded their trays the same way each time. They can do that. So they can trust their machine to know when it's probably dry. But I guarantee you, after they take it all out, they're still going to test it to check to make sure that it's dry. And the kind of testers that you could use for this aren't very practical for what we're doing. Anyway, so that's why I do the weighing as my testing. Oh, let's see, I got lost. Oh, the inventory sheet. I can show that sometime. Well, what all do you track for your inventory? We track just what it is and where it is and what batch it came from and what date it was. Because then our worksheet that we just filled out with the weights, if we have more questions like how long it took or what the dry check showed, it'll be on that sheet. So everything, we can find every bag from every batch that we've ever done, basically. And we don't worry about where we put it in the rack system because it's like a little inventory system for a warehouse system. It's really simple that way. It's actually easier than trying to keep all the products together once you have thousands of bags. And Judith Ann, because of you, I'm weighing my trays throughout and feel my food is much safer. Yeah, if you're still losing weight at the dry check, it couldn't have been dry because you lost weight. If it loses 10 grams of water in a tray, that's 2 teaspoons of water. Would it be safe storing it at that amount? The literature I've read says that it's probably safe below 4% moisture by weight. Well, how do you judge that? Until you know what 0 is, and there are meters that can tell you what that is, but they do a sample quantity of a few grams, so it doesn't do the whole tray. So the simplest way that I've found, excuse me, is to just weigh the whole tray. And I could be wrong. There could be a better method out there to ensure the entire batch is dry. And if somebody shows it to me, I'll switch to the better way. But until then, I know one way that I feel can tell me every time that the entire batch is dry. And so I stick with that. I'm basically a lazy person, you know. I want the easiest way, I want the surest way, and if somebody can show me a better way, I'll change to that better way. I cannot either train that. We need those thermometers. Well, if you dry a batch, if you're used to looking in there and seeing the display say it's in the last 5 hours, for instance, and you look at it and you know that you have thick blocks of food and you know you've got the thermometer in the middle and it says it's still 20 below, you look at that and you go, well, that cannot possibly be done in 5 hours. So I can just add more time now. I don't have to stop the machine and check it until that thermometer, till all those thermometers get up to that temperature. It is very unlikely that it can be dry You know, people sometimes ask, well, what temperature do I know it's dry at? I don't use the thermometers to tell me it's dry. I use the thermometers to tell me that it can't be dry yet, or that it's too cold to take out and will get condensation on it and needs to be rewarmed before I take it out. But yeah, after you get used to it, and then you put a batch in there without thermometers, it's weird. I dried my excess eggs last summer, and I learned if I'm worried to feed the eggs to the dogs or back to the chickens. Yes. Yeah, I don't think I've lost any eggs to problems. I mentioned before I had the one time with the batch of thin bags. And when I say that, the steel can is probably the gold standard for freeze-dried food is for storage. It's metal, nothing's going through it, no light, no air, nothing's going through it, as long as you've done it properly. The second might be a glass jar with a metal lid. You still have the seal area, but for me, the glass jars problem are that they weigh a lot, they cost a lot, but they are reusable, so that's a giant plus. But more important, they're going to break when I drop them, and I'm going to drop them. And they're terrible for bringing on a trip or backpacking because the jar itself is heavy, you know, and they don't block the light. So you have to keep them in a dark place when you're not actively using them. Because we've done batches where we've had Mylar bag and clear plastic bag, same amount of time. The only difference is one light can go through. The food fades. It changes just because the light. So the Mylar bag is, I think, a good choice. But anyway, we ran short. We bought some thinner bags from some other place, random Amazon place, so I don't even know what it was. But they were physically thinner. You could tell they were thinner, and I thought, oh, they'll still be fine. Well, they weren't fine. Moisture made it through it a lot faster than it should. All the Mylar bags, oxygen and moisture are going to go through that bag eventually. It's just a matter of how long of a period of time. And we want 25 or 50 years. Okay. Anyway, so if you're interested in seeing this batch when it comes out, I could do a stream. We could take it out and bag it. I wouldn't start the stream until I know that it's going to be dry. So I will have already done the dry check. So I would do it for 2 days from now and just let them sit in there until it's time. If you're interested, we could go through the bagging of it and that part of the process and chat about the things. That camera has no display on it. I have no idea if it's going right now. And now it's back. So that'd be interesting to see if that actually cut out. All right. I'm going to say goodbye now. And if you have any other questions, if you add them to the comments later, I can put it in the comments. I can't, as far as I know, I can't add to the live stream comments after the live stream is done. The Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, we've been getting ours from Pack Fresh USA. Oh, I think we've had our freeze dryer for over 6.5 years. And I think we started getting our bags there about 6 years ago. The ones that come from Harvest Right are extremely thick, very nice bags, but they were quite a bit more expensive and they didn't have some of the shapes and sizes and things that I wanted. So we were looking for other ones. I honestly don't know if these are the best bags. All I know is that we have stuff that's 6 years old. They seem to be holding up perfectly. When we've done at least one video where we've taken an oxygen absorber out of the bag that has been on the shelf for, I think, 4 years or so, and it was still able to absorb the amount of oxygen that it was originally rated for. So all of the ones that we've done from this company have done better than they claim. They say that they're going to be at least 180% of what they're rated for, and we've seen at least that on everything. Yes, packfreshusa.com. That's what we, and I have on some of the videos, on the older ones, at the bottom of the description, I think I have a link to some of them. And if you ask the question in the comments, I'll just cut and paste this is the bags we usually get. Because when we started out, we were getting 2 quarts in gallons and quarts. Now we use mostly quarts and pints with very few 2 quarts, because as we started using stuff, we realized we didn't need as big a bag. And especially if we only need 2 portions instead of 3 or 4, which is where we're at now. Can you try to type in the comments? In the comments of the live stream, after it's done, I can't, and right now I don't even have a keyboard. So I don't know how from here. Yeah. But on the comments at the end, after the stream is finished, then it will bring it up and they'll have the comments, and you can put the comments, the same questions in there if you need them. All right, so now, okay, we've been getting our Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers from Pack Fresh for years now, and been happy with the price. Oh, hey, that must be number 1 son answering that. Yeah, we're not affiliated in any way, but I've been really happy with their product. I've been really happy with their service. We've only had one issue once where everything that was supposed to be in the pack wasn't there. I called them up. They had it shipped the same day. So yeah, we didn't have any problem with them. The only problem that I've ever had is when they were running low on things a couple of years ago. I hated to tell people what we were doing for our bags, because then they would have more shortages, then I wouldn't be able to get mine. We almost always buy our bags and oxygen absorbers 1,000 at a time, because they have the wholesale shipping that way. But occasionally the regular retail packs, the 100 bags with oxygen absorbers, when they're on sale, sometimes that's a better price, and we do it that way. But most of the time we just get 1,000 at a time, because that doesn't last all that long, especially since we're buying them and sharing them with my sister. So when you have 2 freeze dryers sucking up Mylar bags, they go pretty quick, and especially on hers, because she's freeze drying mostly for her, and then she gives them away to other people and her kids and things. But mostly she bags in pint bags, so she goes through a lot of bags. Okay, so get these last couple of ones. Yes. Okay, well, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll plan on doing these. I think it should be 2 days, and the freeze time won't be very long because they're pre-frozen. So I have it set for 6 hours pre-freeze, or for freezing. It's already below 0. What did I do? I had 2 thermometers in there. Did I put the tray in backwards? Huh, it did not make it in there. Or it's in the back. I don't see it. Well, that's funny. Well, it must not have ended up with it. So I have 1 thermometer in there, and that'll have to do. Okay, so thanks a lot. See you in a couple of days.